Being a football fan is a roller coaster ride of emotions, but we wouldn't have it any other way. There's nothing like it. Sky Bet is not for everyone, it's for the fans. 18 plus, T's and C's apply. Gambleaware.org. Liverpool involved in 2 games already this season. Bournemouth was incredible, end-to-end exciting. And now you're looking at Newcastle versus Liverpool, 3-2, last-minute winner from a 16-year-old kid, outstanding. It's almost game of the season. We're 2 weeks into the campaign. What did you make of it? What's an overview from your perspective of Liverpool getting that win?
I mean, it was massive. It doesn't really tell you a great deal. I think there's a lot of talk about Liverpool and about whether or not they're as good as they were last season, but it's way too early. Like, you can't tell anything from this game. Remember, it's kind of preloaded with this Isak conversation, and so importantly, what you're seeing Liverpool do for their title aspirations is win football matches. And I know it's such an obvious thing, but given the kind of subtext. Going away to Newcastle, their fans were very good last night, very loud, made it very difficult. And for Liverpool to come through, that was, that's essentially how you do win titles. I think the question is, have you seen any kind of drop-off in Liverpool? Well, maybe there's questions about the defence.
Yeah,
you're talking about 2 games. It might be a bit of poor form, a bit of control. Konate has looked pretty horrible, but he's better than that. What did you think?
I thought it was outstanding. You have to say that in the first half, Newcastle were all over Liverpool, and the fact that Liverpool get that opportunity to take the lead is absolutely outstanding. But you have to say on some level that Newcastle United missed that striker down the middle. That there was a couple of balls into the box in the first half. You think, Isak's burying those chances. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You must be livid if you're a Newcastle United supporter. But Gordon obviously he misses a big header because he's a little bit too small to be a striker. He's not a striker, is he? Yeah. Anthony Gordon. And then the sending off. What did you make of the sending off?
I thought it was harsh. I think he lunged. It was. That's in the competitive game like this. Players, and Gordon is a little bit hot-headed, to be fair. But in a competitive game like this, you're gonna. It does happen. It was almost like a derby fixture because of this sort of preloaded issue around the game. And I think the Newcastle players and Gordon was, fired up because they wanted to show Isak what they were missing.
I agree.
And they wanted to show that we can compete with Liverpool.
Is it a red card?
It's one of them. Either it is.
I think it's harsh. I'm getting slagged off online. I think it's harsh. I think it's real harsh.
I would say it was harsh as well, but you see them given all the time. But what I was impressed with Newcastle is that was a statement to Isak. Like, there was no world where Isak should be allowed near that first team ever again, even if he stays. And they just showed that, we are competitive. We were easily good for a draw in that game, and Isak should know just how good we are. But he just doesn't. He's just not interested. And if you're a Liverpool fan in that instance, or a Liverpool player, you'll be looking at it and going, do we really want this geezer?
Yeah, ultimately footballers are always going to put pressure on. They've got massive egos. They're very, they consider themselves very special people. They've got very special careers that not many of us are able to have, not fortunate enough to have. And he's putting massive pressure on. You have to say, the money isn't there yet. I'm not seeing a bid that Newcastle are justifiably rejecting. It's not like they've turned down £200 million or £175 million or it's 110, 120 million kind of pounds. If that's not the fee that Newcastle United want, they're well in their rights to hold on.
Do you think Liverpool are getting away scot-free here a little bit? Because they've just put this bid in that was never going to be accepted. Put in a serious bid that Newcastle can accept and then get this rolling. So they've almost engineered this situation where Isak can manipulate Newcastle into accepting a lower bid. And Liverpool, they haven't really spoken about Liverpool's role in this, really. They should be coming
They're entitled to bid. I don't think it's Liverpool's fault. They bid whatever they want. If someone in Liverpool Football Club thinks that Virgil van Dijk was worth 75 million quid all those years ago, and it's one of the best signs in the history of the Premier League, someone in a similar fashion today is thinking that Isak is worth whatever it is, 120 million, whatever the bid is right now. And that's what they're saying. And maybe that increases in the next 10 days in the transfer window until the deadline. But right now, Liverpool just put a bid in.
They've lowballed it.
You're allowed to put a bid in. You could have bid for Lionel Messi back in the day. It doesn't have to be accepted. The issue is, for me, is Isak. Isak's under contract. He's got 3 years left. And Newcastle now have missed a striker in a goalless draw against Aston Villa, which they could have won. They had big chances to win. Yeah. And I think Newcastle could have won the game against Liverpool. It's down to the player. The player power in this scenario is really, really scary.
I just think that there was a plan in place from Liverpool to lowball the offer, create a problem for Newcastle, and Isak and his team are doing everything they can in order to engineer this move. I don't think the only time I can think of a player who's acted this poorly would perhaps Payet at West Ham, where a player has just refused. Even Visser's gone back to training. He hasn't played, but he's training with the team.
Yeah.
He's refusing to train. I've gone on record. I had a clip that went a little bit kind of mental when I've been talking about this. So I don't want to regurgitate the same points, but effectively it was, I cannot believe that Isak is behaving in this way, knowing full well that Newcastle are the team that brought him to the league. Newcastle are the team that guaranteed him and protected him through injury by giving him a contract that long. And for him, with 3 years left, not even halfway through his contract, him going, do you know what? I don't care about any of that. I want out. Our promises are broken, but grow up.
Does it remind you of Harry Kane when obviously he refused to come into training for? It was only a week, I think. It wasn't as prolonged as this, but obviously links to Man City. This is 4 years ago now.
It does to some degree, but you know that he came back, played 3 years, and it didn't go on for this. I think we were in a situation where we couldn't play him because he wanted to leave. It wasn't
play against City, could he? He couldn't play in the opening game of the season.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
It's a bit like this game.
Yeah, and so look, it does. There are similarities to the Kane situation, but you know that he didn't conduct himself in the way that Isak has, and then eventually, he ended up staying for 3 years anyway. It doesn't seem like Isak's going to do anything here. What would be fascinating, and time is running out here. What would be fascinating is if he doesn't get the move.
No, I think that's going to happen. That's the most likely scenario. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. But by the way, I mean, Carlos Tevez refused to come off the bench against Bayern Munich. I don't know if you remember that.
I do,
of course, in the Aguero season. He was playing golf in Argentina for about 6 months. Seriously, he was overweight, and Mancini put an arm around him when City needed him. He came back, he was unplayable against Norwich City away and helped City win the title. So stranger things have happened is what I'm saying. I think Isak could come into the fold if Newcastle have got a Champions League quarter.
But how dare he?
I know, it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
And I think
these footballers are just, they are egotistical.
Mate, he's been an arsehole, I think. It's more than that.
I don't want to say the word, but...
The situation Newcastle find themselves in as well is that if he does stay, that they can't necessarily afford to replace him. So if they're selling him for 120 million, that gives them a lot of liquidity and a lot of ability to move in the transfer market. And sign a player that could potentially, talking about Strand Larsen as well, he was a decent centre forward.
50 mil.
Wolves have rejected a £50 million bid. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Yeah. I was like, they should have bit his hand off for 50 million. Are you mad?
They could get relegated without him, that's their issue.
Fair. And I guess they don't need the money because of Aït-Nouri and the Cunha sales. But
yeah.
I think Newcastle are in a really difficult situation. I can't see them finding a centre forward that even comes near to lacing Isak's boots. And also, they don't want to look weak in the eyes of the footballing world, and to Isak by letting him go to Liverpool. But really now, and it's a shame, but it's in their best interest to move him on.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. You have to say Liverpool, despite all the drama around Isak on the pitch, Gravenberch comes back for his first start, scored an outstanding goal.
Yeah, beautiful.
Ekitike, 3 goals in 3 now, if you include the Community Shield, which is... And then I go back to the Isak point. Do Liverpool really need Isak? I mean, it's going to disrupt Ekitike. Ekitike won't start as many games. Ekitike looks like a real handful, by the way. He was really, really strong at holding up the ball against really good centre-backs in terms of Shaw.
Yeah.
I thought he was superb, Ekitike. So there is a question mark if Liverpool even need him. And ultimately, Liverpool have shown unbelievable mentality without someone like Isak in the squad to get this kind of win. It's absolutely huge.
You'd think there's goals in Liverpool, so do they need to spend this amount of money? You think if Ekitike gets injured, then they're light in that number 9 position, having sold Nunez. So perhaps they do need him in depth. And Isak's the best number 9. Well, he was the best number 9 certainly in the league. But there's a conversation about Europe last year. So it's always ways of improving your squad and what that does in the longevity of this. They're going to be wanting to go for Champions League. They want to go for League. They want to go for the FA Cup. If they're looking at that treble, realistically, they're going to need depth in that number 9 position. But you're right. What does that do to Ekitike? Because he started on fire, really. He has. And I had reservations about whether or not he'd be able to do it in the Premier League. There's one thing playing for Frankfurt where the pressure's off in the Bundesliga, but another when you're playing for defending a league title. And he looks very good.
He looks very, very good, doesn't he? And Salah actually is the one that, again, Salah's the big name at Liverpool. He's going to be bigger than Isak. If Isak goes to Liverpool, Salah's still the biggest name in that forward line. And he was instrumental in that final goal against Newcastle United, the 3rd goal.
Yeah.
The ball across. And by the way, I have to say, Dominic Szoboszlai, I cannot believe it. He's playing at right back. I thought he was outstanding, by the way, against Harvey Barnes. Completely dominated Harvey Barnes at points, in my honest opinion.
Yeah.
And then he's running and he's given a dummy to the Salah ball.
He should get the assist, really. really.
Yeah, it's almost like he's created it, and then it goes on to Rio Gamoa. I'll probably butchered his name, but he is one of the most superb young talents I've seen. I saw him score a superb goal in pre-season, and the way he's taken that, it's not a tap in. He's buried that into the far corner, and it could be the type of goal. Look, we're 2 weeks into the Premier League campaign, but these kind of goals, it makes you feel there's an inevitability, there's a momentum that Liverpool have got that maybe Arsenal don't quite have. I know they just won 5-0, but do Arsenal winning against Newcastle at St James's Park, do Man City keep this kind of result going against Newcastle if you're playing badly? I don't know. And Liverpool are just getting maximum points every single week.
Time will tell, obviously. We'll know when it's early doors. And, you've always seen some Arsenal fans online going, yeah, this is the season, we're going to win the league. You beat Leeds, come on. The questions for Liverpool are defensively, right? Is Kirkes going to be able to offer the same defensive stabilities as Robertson and organisation and leadership? Maybe not, it's early doors, but there are question marks there. Konate started very poorly, and so... And is Van Dijk going to be able to perform at a level that he has consistently over the years? And it might be a question. It's not just Isak that comes in. It might be the fact that they need Mark Gahey.
Well, Mark Gahey, yeah, 100%. And what about Florian Wirtz? Did you have any kind of observations about another performance where you could argue he's gone under the radar again? He hasn't really done anything.
I think Newcastle shut him down brilliantly.
Yeah,
I think they just double manned him and essentially didn't give him any room to operate. There's no doubt that he will be an excellent signing, but two performances that, like you say, may have gone under the radar. Certainly yesterday's was a 5-6 out of 10. The pressure comes on straight away because of the amount of money that's been spent. But I think everybody regarded that transfer as like the best of the summer. So I don't know. I mean, I still think that we're going to come on to him, but I think the Liverpool's greatest challenge will be Manchester City or Spurs.